Hello and welcome to my shop. This is Josh here, 55210. So, continuing on with the the build thrash on this truck. Got the shift linkage taken care of, torque converter bolts tightened down, got a new starter on. Today, I'm wanting to tackle a low-hanging fruit item that has been sitting around for a while, drilling and bolting the fuel tank to the frame. I've had that thing clamped onto the frame forever and ever, and I think I'm finally ready to go ahead and get under there, drill the bolts, and get the fuel tank attached. I got rid of the side saddle tank that I had before because it was all rusty and old anyway, and I decided to go with an under bed bed fill version way out the back of the frame by where a spare tire would go. So I got to get that thing mounted up, and then after that I want to get the radiator core support installed. So that's the factory one from the 85 C10, and then I kept the core support from the 2006 2500 HD donor truck. So I'm going to get this cut up and use that to help mount the factory radiator from the donor truck. I know that thing will cool this engine and work well, so I can use this core support to help me do that. If I can't get it tonight, I'll get it tomorrow night, but it should all be in the same video here. So anyway, I'm going to get on the creeper and on my back again and get my little drill set up, and we'll get this gas tank mounted. So the way this tank sits, there's two tabs on each side that kind of welded on to match the angle of the frame, and the hardware kit comes with 8 bolts, so 2 per tab, and I've got it clamped up in place nice and flush. I've actually had it just sitting there for like a year now, clamped up, but I just need to run a couple of drill holes up through the bottom here, drill through both pieces, and then get that clamped up nice and firm. I'll probably still have to take it apart or take it off at one point, maybe for getting it cleaned out once I cut the hole in the top of this tank for the sending unit for the fuel pump. I got an in-tank retrofit kit for this non-EFI fuel tank, so I'll be putting EFI in it, so I have to drop the tank again, but it'll be a lot easier next time because I can just take a couple of bolts out. So anyway, I'm going to get the camera set up here and we'll start drilling some holes. So there's the 3 bolts on the inside. And just put a wrench in there and let the sidewall hold it still while I tighten those up. So got 3 more to do on the other side to hold the tank up, and I'll take that last little clamp out, drill the front holes out, and put that hardware in. We got the rest of those bolts in. At the front one there, where it's kind of thin in that spot, but same over here. Let's grab it. Flashlight. There we go. Right there. So I've got those two. So that's bolted in place. So there's one thing done. So I'm gonna go grab that core support now, go find the bolts for it, and we'll set that in place. That thing's really dusty, so I'm gonna grab my air nozzle and go blow it off before I bring it over here. Whoop, whoop. I really like the way that satin paint worked out on these. They look pretty good, even though they're going to be covered up with a bunch of stuff and you won't see very much of it. What you will see looks pretty good. So grab that one, set all this wiring mess over the core support, and put on the driver's side. I just set it on the wheel in place. I got to go grab the hardware for it and kind of bolt it up there and back here in place. But yeah, feels good to get this coming along. You know, just set that there and it's like, feels so much better. Looks better too. I'm gonna go grab the fan shroud and bring that in. So this is the fan shroud from the 2006 truck. Now I can kind of lean that back. wiring over. But yeah, with the radiator there and all, might have to do a little trimming, but see, I think that'll fit really nice. I'm trying to make it look like this was a factory installation on this thing. Yeah. Kind of get the visual effect here with the fan shroud coasted in its spot, and that cover on here looks almost like it's a 2006 made square body. So that's kind of what I'm going for here. Make it look like GM put an LS in this truck from the factory if I can. Went ahead and grabbed the radiator and set it in place. So without the other core support, this thing sits a little too low, close to the bottom here. And there's nothing really to locate the bottom. It uses a pin inside of a plastic, like a rubber grommet, to hold it in place. So it'll look pretty good. And you see it's got the room front to back to use this shroud. But I've got to get it lined up right, otherwise, you know, it's gonna rub. You don't want that. So I need to go grab the lower piece from the donor truck and trim that off, and then mount that onto this bottom piece with a standoff so it sits up tall enough to hold this in the correct location. And for what I've been looking into, it should be up about 3/4 of an inch from the bottom of this piece. So I'll go grab that piece. We can start cutting and trimming on it and get the part that we need out of it. So here's that donor core support that I grabbed. I don't need the whole thing. I just never got around to cutting it. So there's 2 slotted holes right here and 2 round holes. They punched them for either the standard duty radiator or the heavy duty one, which is what I have from a 2500 HD truck. And in those go these little pucks here, little rubber pucks. So one fits into the round, one goes into the slotted. And then I think I should probably set my camera up for this. There we go. So on this one, it's got a pin on the bottom. The pin just drops into that one, and you adjust the slotted piece and it drops right in there as well. So I think that's where I'm going to end it this evening. The wife needs me to come in, give her a hand putting the little one down, so give her a little bit of a break. She's giving me, you know, a couple hours out here this evening. So anyway, when I get back out here tomorrow, we'll get started on the details of cutting this up for the part I need and getting it mounted. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. This next day, getting a little earlier start in the evening after work today than yesterday. I stopped where I was. I didn't modify the core support that I need, because I didn't want to be grinding and throwing sparks and everything inside of here, or use my plasma cutter inside with all this stuff in here at the moment. So I was waiting until it got light outside so I could work out there. So I'm going to set up a stand and grab a plasma cutter and then show you where I'm going to cut the core support to get the part that I need. that a second to cool down. So I went about 1 inch on the outside of this hole, about 1 inch on the outside of this hole, and then I just went through and cut through all of the skip welds there on the bottom side. And then since this is 2 plates, I'm going to come in from the other side and use this lip as a straight edge and just ride along the edge of that to cut this piece free. I grabbed a couple of nuts right now to use as spacers for that section of the bottom of the core support that I cut out to kind of space it up. So the little rubber grommets that the bottom of the radiator go into and through that plate will stick a little bit below that plate. So having this spacer will allow it to kind of sit against the metal and not bottom out on this shelf on the bottom side of the original core support. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the nut, like, there we go. I'm going to put it right there next to the little tab that held the original rubber U-shaped piece that the original radiator sat down in. So I'm going to set it there on that tab. And the same one over here, there's a little boss where it sticks out in front of that. I'm going to set it right there. Then I'll drill a hole through in each spot, and then when I set the new one here in place, after I've got the hole from the bottom, once I get this thing centered, I'll mark it from the bottom side and then take it out and drill it and then put it back in here. But originally in the other truck, it sat with this lip facing up, right? And what I'm going to do is mount it the other way. I'm going to flip it so that edge is now pointing down. And the reason why, I'm going to push it up forward against the core support here, kind of centered up, and then it's going to rest on the lip on that shelf on the front side and hold it steady, and then the nuts that are on the back side here will hold it, so it'll be kind of flush and flat and supported from the front and the back and not want to bend and flop around. And then yeah, I'll get it bolted in place. Right now I just kind of quickie center this thing. Alright, I'll drop the bushing in there, radiator support bushing. Put that one there, put this one there in that slot. I'm going to test fit it. I won't be able to final install this thing until I get the whole core support bolted onto the frame fully and finished. Because I might need to trim how those spacers are. Maybe it needs a shorter nut or a taller one. I won't know yet because I'll have to center the fan inside the shroud. But in order to get this thing locked down where it's going to be, I need to have the fenders on either side. So this is just getting it really close, but I won't be able to get my final piece done until I have everything kind of buttoned up as far as the front doghouse goes. But we can just kind of see what it'll look like here. Drop that down. Try and aim for the center. There we go, got that pin. That one. Make sure it stays flush. That lower plate stays flush on the forward side on that lip. And then the fan shroud has a tab on either side that just pops into a tab on the radiator right here. Pop that one in there. There we go, that one in there. Make sure that's, yeah, that's seated. Forward a little bit. Feels like it's hung up on the fan. There we go. There we go. So then I can just make a bracket that comes off of this side and attaches here and use the fan shroud to clamp the whole assembly together. I don't even need to worry about these tabs, so I might eventually trim those off. I'm going to leave it for right now, but make sure that's kind of centered. Yeah. So that sits nice and vertical with the original core support, the way the radiator's sitting there. It kind of slid back a little bit right here. There we go. But yeah, that looks almost like GM intended for this setup to go in one of these trucks back in the day. Cool. So it's pretty close to centered with that height. Like I said, I might have to do just a little bit of shimming. You know, I could pop a washer on the top of the bushing if I needed to, or put a taller or shorter nut on the bottom side piece if I need it. But looking pretty good. So there's getting the lower half in, and now yeah, I don't have to worry about making little U-shaped pieces and stuff because it doesn't fit the original rubber bushing that the original radiator would have sat in. Does not fit with the radiator from the donor truck. So that's a simple way to do it. Just steal another part, and cheap and budget minded. So you look it up and you see LS swap aluminum fabricated radiators that are designed to just bolt into the square body Chevys are $400 or $500, really expensive. And you know, then you got to run like an electric fan on here, and which I don't mind. I like electric fans, but I'm trying to do this cheap and easy. And if I ran an electric fan, then I'd have to wire in a trinary switch for the AC system, so that when I turned the air conditioning on, it turned on at least one of the electric fans the moment you turn the air conditioning on. Even if it's really cool outside, if you turn the air conditioning on and your compressor starts running and you don't have airflow going through, like you're sitting in traffic even on a 60-degree day, your air conditioning system will overheat like in a minute. It's crazy how quick it goes. So like Vintage Air, they say if you run an electric fan, you have to get a trinary switch to wire that in. So either your thermostatic switch would turn it on, or your computer, if you're running it that with the LS swap, if your computer controls your electric fans, or when you turn on the air conditioning. For the mechanical fan setup that I have, it'll just be turning all the time, so there's always airflow through it, so I don't have to worry about wiring that in. And the really nice part is everything that's associated with the drivetrain: engine, transmission, covers, injectors, O2 sensors, the radiator, fan shroud. Since I'm going to also be using the factory overflow bottle from the donor truck and all that, if you have anything that goes wrong and you need replacement parts, you just go into any part store and say, I need a radiator for a 2006 2500 HD, and they can go grab it. And I priced those, and like on Rock Auto, I think they had one that was like 118, 119 bucks when I looked at it last time. So You could buy 4 of these radiators for the price of one of those fabricated LS swap ones. This was a lot cheaper, so I'm not always the big budget-minded guy. I do spend money in certain areas, but for this setup, I know this radiator will cool that engine, and the transcooler built into it is enough for the 4L80, so I'm not going to overheat the transmission either. So I'm trying to keep the combo as original as I possibly can for the engine transmission. Excuse me. For simplicity's sake. The one thing that is a little different, when I got the power steering pump, since the old one was a Hydro Boost setup, and I was getting a new pump, because the other one was rusty and leaky, and I didn't want to put it back in there. But since I got a new one, I told them I had like a Silverado 1500 with like a 5.3, and they asked me if it was regular cab or extended cab, crew cab, whatever. I just said regular cab. Apparently there's a difference between them, but essentially it's all the same kind of, you know, like Saginaw power steering pump setup. And I just had to lightly bend this line up just a little bit so to clear the frame rail, because it sticks out just a little bit. That's the one piece that you don't go into the parts store and say you need one for a 2006 2500 HD, because they all had like Hydro Boost. And then I put a nipple in the backside of the intake manifold. There's just a little plug in there, and you press a lock ring in and pull the plug out. And then for this one, you just push in the nipple for the vacuum line, and you can buy a vacuum line for it for an LS engine that had vacuum brakes, which is what I've got going on here. So there's a little bit different from what a factory 2006 truck would be, but not that different. So anyway, I kind of like the way that looks. That's pretty neat. So yeah, for mock-up purposes and stuff, just for fun, I might go ahead and just set the factory hoses in place just to see how everything will look. But like I said, I'm not going to be able to button it up until a little later. So this is where I'm going to leave the cooling system for the moment, since I can't finish up and make the brackets yet until I have the rest of the sheet metal installed. I'm going to move to another part of this project. So I need to put the fuel pump into the gas tank that I just installed, and in order to get room to get to it, I'm going to go ahead and take the wood slats and everything out of the bed here so I can reach through the bed to get to the top of that tank. So I'm going to do that off camera. I'm going to just take out all the wood pieces. It's like 200 fasteners or something like that. It's a heck of a lot of bolts and nuts and washers and everything that I put it in. So I dry test fit with all the parts in there, and now I need to go undo everything so I can pull the boards out and drill the mounting holes that I need, and then also varnish them. So I'll take that stuff apart, and we'll be back whenever I'm ready to start drilling the holes and mounting the in-tank fuel pump. Well, that was a bit more of a fight than I was expecting, getting all the bolts out of the bed, all the hardware. I had 3 or so, I think, nuts that galled the threads, and I hadn't even tightened anything really down. I'd just run them up loosely. So there must have been some grit or dust or something that got up in those threads and got caught up whenever I was trying to run them out, using my little Milwaukee ratchet to get it out, and it would power in, and most of them came out just fine, and a couple of them was like click, click, click. Oh no. But anyway, got that out, so I've got good access now to the top side of the fuel tank here. So I'm going to come out after work tomorrow, and I'll start getting the sending unit and fuel pump installed on this thing. So I think I'm going to leave it there tonight. We also had a break when the storm rolled through, lost power for, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. It wasn't very long. And then I can hear another round of storms coming. So I think it's a good place to end for tonight. So I'll pick this back up tomorrow after work and finish up mounting all this stuff in the fuel tank. Alright, it's time to install the fuel pump. So first step, we need to drill a mounting hole for this thing. I got a 2 1/8 inch hole saw, and I'm going to use a corded drill for this. I like my cordless stuff, but when using hole saws or something bigger, I like the oomph that one of these has. It seems to have a little more torque to it to get through bigger jobs. And of course the whole piece goes into the tank. That's okay. We'll deal with it. This is one of those tools I highly recommend that's not very expensive. Just a little deburring blade. So it's got a quick disconnect little ratchet mechanism here. And yeah, you can put it, it'll cut either direction. Got one that goes better. But you can get in there and cut the burr off on a hole. Used to use this all the time when I was a sheet metal worker. Fabricating parts. And feel the direction that it goes nicely. Those hole saws tend to leave a nasty burr edge on them when they cut through. And if any of you have ever had one bite on you, you can probably still feel your wrist hurting from it. This job seems like a really good opportunity to use my bore scope to ensure the cleanliness of the tank before I finish the installation. Alright. Little Sharpie. Make sure that's centered and held down good. There we go. I'll still get in there to clean it up, but I just wanted to get it, like, keep it clean while I'm working. Alright. So from the bottom of the tank to that edge is 9 5/16 on that side. And this side, okay. So from the surface here to the bottom of this sock, we need to be 1/8 of an inch above the tank, which will put total distance from here to the bottom of the sock. So we go minus 1/8 inch. That's 9 3/16. So we've got to trim this metal piece and the tubing so that the stack up of the pump and the sock puts us right above the bottom of the tank. 9 3/16 to the bottom of that. Well, first off, I'm going to trim it up a little bit. And 3/16 is there. That's going to stick below, so we're going to just trim it at the notch here. I'll go get that cut off and we'll be right back. There we go. Alright, let's pull out the old bore scope and have a peek in there and see what it looks like. Got one of these inexpensive bore scopes from Amazon. Been looking forward for a chance to use it. Very good. Seems like it's laying right there above the bottom. There's a little bit of trash I need to get in there and clean out. So that's the baffle in the tank, and it goes all the way to the top. kind of keep stuff from sloshing around. That's neat to see. Alright, let's get this thing extracted and get it cleaned up. Well, I used that borescope again and just used the vacuum where I could see where all the stuff was with that borescope, so it got everything cleaned out of the tank. So now all I got to do is assemble it all, you know, final assembly. So this piece, I'd had the little green O-rings on it when I put it up from the bottom. This one actually just goes in bare and plain like it is. So it came with 10 O-rings. I was thinking, oh, or 12 O-rings, you know, thought it would be, you know, mash on one side and then you put the other on the other side and it seals it from both sides. But it doesn't need it that way. It just needs it from the top. And then I guess they give you a couple extra, you know, replacements if you need them down the road. So I'm going to take a few minutes here and get this buttoned up correctly, and then we'll be right back. Put the thin one in here. The thick version is if you have a stock tank that has perforations on the top or corrugations on the top where it's not flat and flush. If you have a flat area like this, you can use the thinner one. There we go. I think that foam will kind of hold it up in place. Or I hope it will. I don't want to drop that in. So there's the pump unit installed. I still need to come out here and install the sending unit, which I've got in that box there. I need to get it trimmed down and set up so that I can have that work on my gauges, know how much gas I got. You know. All right, picking this back up. I've installed the sending unit in the tank. I did that off camera. I've got a matched sending unit for this tank from LMC Truck, and the instructions that come with it are actually really good, showing you where to trim location for your float, and trim that arm to the correct length for the depth of the tank that you've got, and adjusting where the attach point is on its slotted travel, the post coming off the bottom of that thing. So that was fairly straightforward to install. Then we have one heck of a storm that's been passing through for a couple of hours. So I was supposed to have the Indy 500 today, like before noon, and it didn't start until 4 o'clock or something, but I wasn't going to be watching it anyway. But my wife was pretty bummed. She was going to watch both races today, and the first one got postponed, and then when the storm came through we couldn't see it, and then the second race, the NASCAR race, she can't watch that either because they have all the storm warnings going on. So the local station is on a weather break, so she's pretty upset. What she usually does is kind of quilt or crochet or something during the race, kind of listen to it and get some of her craft project stuff done. She's really great at making beautiful quilts and such, so kind of bummed that she can't do that at the moment. She can still kind of quilt and all, but she's not watching the races like she normally likes to. But anyway, so on my donor truck, I had grabbed a whole bunch of wiring that ran front to back, so I'd have enough length of wiring to do what I need to do. The sending unit on this truck used to be up on the side saddle fuel tank, so underneath the driver's seat there. And I'm putting this thing all the way back. So instead of like splicing into the existing one, I grabbed enough length of wire for both ground and well, for both sides to go all the way to the fuse panel. So whenever I was looking through my Dakota Digital information for the instrument cluster here, there's a little control panel, and it recommends running dedicated wires to and from the sending unit. It wanted, instead of just grounding to the body or grounding to the frame, it wanted to put the ground directly to the control unit. So that's what I'm going to do. I got enough length to take care of that. So I got that in. And then next thing I did here, I grabbed up my AN lines, and you can kind of see I got a couple black fittings right there in the fuel pump's like head unit piece. I have assembled the first hose here just to make sure I could get it to work right. This is the first time I'm working with the Teflon AN fuel hoses, but it actually goes together pretty well, so I'm going to show the next one that I make. It worked pretty well. And then I've got the shows a frame hole right here where we've got kind of 3 in a row, and put a bolt through, and that is holding the Corvette style fuel pressure regulator and filter. So let's see if I can't get a view of that. There we go. I got that mounted on the frame rail with the lines kind of preliminarily attached to it. So what I got to do next here is mark and cut my next segment of hose, and then I clean it out from the inside, and then I'll attach the fittings, and I'll try and film, plumbing the rest of this thing. So I've done the pressure side, which is the red side. So I need to do the return, and then run the feed from the outlet of that filter all the way up to the fuel rail fitting. And I've got a bunch of clamps and stuff to screw that up against the frame rail and really hold everything securely. But let's get started with this return line, and I'll show you how to put together one of these PTFE fuel hoses if you haven't used that before, which is me. I've never used this particular one before this project, and I kind of like it. Okay, I've got my soft jaws in here. Now, you want to put some tape over your hose, and I've got a line marked on there where I need to cut it. But you put the tape over it, and that will keep your stainless braid from fraying out. And then clamp it, but don't crush it, just light enough. And I'm going to be using the abrasive cutoff wheel. It says you can put it in stuff and use a hacksaw. Eek. That would be a pain in the butt. And I don't know how well using snips would be. If you got something sharp enough that could cut through it, it would work. Beverly shear or knockoff of that would probably eat right through it, but it would kind of pinch the Teflon liner down, and I want to keep it round. So I'm going to cut it this way and then flush the hose out. So it's got a white Teflon inner piece, and then there's a little ferrule that crimps around that. There's an insert that'll go in it, and kind of the ferrule and the insert we'll sandwich that white Teflon piece. Alright, here we are. Undo this segment of hose that I don't need yet. So, the Teflon fittings, you got the part that interfaces with your fitting on the tank or on your fuel filter. And then this, with the little flared beld piece is what goes on the hose. So, careful when taking this apart, because there's a little aluminum ferrule inside. Get some of that grinding dust off of there. So first thing I'm going to do is flush this hose out. So the method I found I kind of like. I got some of my pre-cleaning prep stuff in one of these rechargeable containers. So I kind of wash it and flush it into the hose on either side because I've cut both sides. I'm going to kind of loosen up the particles in there. I kind of put my finger on both sides and kind of get it to wash back and forth here. I've got a little can I'll drain it into. It's got some hardware in it, and it'll just clean off any grime on the bolts and nuts in that little container. Now take the tape off and slide the lock nut over the braid. Do this first. Bell end first over it. There we are. Easy enough. Now one more step that I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab some compressed air and blow those chunks out, the last little bits. That was one piece I had. But I have my hose strung all over the shop at the moment and don't feel like unwrapping it. So sorry about the noise. But just making sure that everything's out of there. I don't want junk going upstream. And now, the next step is I got a little bitty X-Acto knife. Here we are. Where I've cut it, there's a little bit of the Teflon that's got kind of rolled over on the inside. All I'm going to do here is just use the X-Acto knife. And I don't want to cut the wall thinner. I just want to trim the burr off, so to speak. And make sure it falls out of the hole. There we go. Just so it can be flush in there. And while I'm at it, I'll get this other side too. There's not as much on it, but I don't want anything messing up the ability of this thing to seal. I'd like to turn the key, the fuel pump comes on the first time, and I don't have gas pouring out everywhere. The next step is if this has been pinched down a little bit, the Teflon kind of pinch close if you use some sort of like cutting method to take this apart instead of like an abrasive like I used. You come with a little tool that you can put in, kind of true it up and round it up again. And then you flare out the like stainless braid mesh stuff here. And suggest a small screwdriver or other similar thing. And I found that, yeah, the little snap-on screwdriver that you often get for free, people pass that kind of stuff out. You know, it might have a muffler shop's name on it, or a plumber might give one out, electrician, what have you. But yeah, if you see these things as swag sitting on someone's booth, I actually really like them. Little screwdrivers. I don't really carry it in my pocket, But I do have a couple of them. And here's an instance where it'll come in handy. So you just kind of get it in there and tilt it over to flare it out. And what you're doing is flaring it so that you can start the tapered portion of the ferrule and push it in, and you won't have any wires underneath. If you get one of these little wires between the Teflon tube and the ferrule, it won't seal up right. That is very explicit in the literature. So, put that little internal ferrule piece between the braid and the Teflon hose, and you've got to press the hose until it seats inside of a shoulder inside of this ferrule. Ferrule. So, it says press against something flat. Kind of slid a little bit. There we are. So if you can see, the tube is pressed all the way up until maybe they machined it about a 1/16 of an inch down from the flat face on the front. And then to assemble this, I'm going to set that there for a moment. This is just a little bit of oil to lubricate the threads. I got some 3-in-1 oil. Just do a couple of drops there and a little drop on that nipple that goes in the Teflon tube, just so it slides easier. Then I'll hold the base hose and kind of twist and push until it pushes that centerpiece in, and is basically flush against the ferrule. Then I'll pull the nut up and start the threads on it. Now I'll clamp the nut portion in the soft jaws, and I have one of these kind of adjustable Allen wrenches, which works fine. I mean, you don't mar stuff. This is going to be underneath the bed, so you're not even going to see it anyway. But it's a little cumbersome. So you kind of notice that it'll be turning the hose, and then all of a sudden the hose will catch on the nut. And then it'll be the insert that's tightening, and it will stop trying to turn the hose. But of course I drop it. There. I have noticed that the polished wrenches tend to not mar it as well, and they get a little lower profile bite. I didn't drop the buns for a full set of like AN wrenches, because I was like, if I probably have it work just fine without spending that much money. Here we are. I'll just feed it through this way. Alright, it's seated up there flush. So that's that end done. So I'll do the other end here, and we'll go install that. This one snugged up. Got our fresh hose we just made up. Kind of match the curve a little bit in the same direction. Get that started. There we go. So anyway, saying these polished wrenches, I mean, these are cheap at Harbor Freight, but the polished wrenches don't seem to mar the threads on the AN fittings, just like the anodized aluminum wrenches don't either. So yeah, whenever I was working at the Saab repair shop way back in the day, right out of high school, my boss showed me that you could use the polished wrenches on aluminum parts and it wouldn't gall them all up. But at the time, those were really expensive snap-ons, and now, like, the cheapo Harbor Freight polished wrenches do the same thing. And they got the same warranty pretty much. You break one, you just bring it in. Alright, we switch the view over to the fuel filter. And hold this steady. There we go. So the center one that's aligned along the center axis of the filter is actually the return back to the tank. And then the one next to it is actually the pressure line coming into the filter. Alright, grabbed another wrench. So I'll hold that one still. Tighten these up. All right, that one. Just double wrench tightening the fittings on the pump while I had it there. Okay, since these two lines are different sizes, this one had a different size thread on it than what I had grabbed the wrench for. This one, I believe, is 5/8. It is. This one's 11/16 on the coupling nut. Okay. So I've got those. Alright, so got those running over and just to the top of the tank, and I think they'll be good. I could put a P-clamp up at the top to hold it, but really I think they're going to be just fine. So I'm going to leave it like that. It's not moving around. So, alright, this next one, that one's going to be a long run. So I'm going to skip videoing me crawling around underneath the truck, and I'll just get this segment made up, and we'll come back after I get this next one run, because it's going to take me a little bit and be kind of hard to bring the camera along with. Well, wouldn't you know it, I'm missing a part to be able to run that last fuel line that I need. So on the fuel rail on these trucks, from this donor style, it's just a single, like, deadhead style into the fuel rail. The return is actually in that filter regulator that I've got, so I don't need to run a return from up here. And that's just a quick push to connect fitting. Unfortunately, even though I know I have two of them that I've purchased, I've misplaced them. I can't find them. I've been digging through, tearing up everything, going through all the boxes of parts I got out here, I was tearing up the other garage, going through the house, the basement where I've got a few parts. But I've mostly moved things into this garage, so really don't have stuff anywhere else to look. So I'm kind of stuck at the moment. But I think this is enough to make a finish on this video. You've seen the process that I was using for the Teflon fuel hose there, and getting everything plumbed up. So it's just the same process for this longer one, except I'll be using some like bushed or cushioned P-shaped clamps that I'm going to screw onto the frame to hold the fuel line as I run it along. So I'll show that whenever I get my parts in, get back around to it. But I think I'm going to go look through the boxes of stuff that I have that is here for something that I can do a complete project and get something done tonight. Like, I know I've got the in that box is the rear view mirror, and I just got a glue kit for it, so maybe I'll glue the mirror on so I at least feel like I've got something accomplished completely. So thanks everyone for watching. I appreciate all the new subscribers and all the old ones, and I know a lot of people are kind of waiting for some Tri-5 content, and I've got a couple of surprises in store on the Tri-5 project stuff that I've got coming on. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for more thrash videos on this truck as I try and beat the clock to get it just running and driving for the car show. Maybe I'll make it, maybe I won't, but you guys will see my struggle. I'll catch you later. Thanks.